Today we're going to take a look at a guitar that's probably not quite like anything you've seen before. So this is a Hufschmid guitar, hand-built by one man, Patrick Hufschmid, in a small workshop in Switzerland. No CNC, just small hand-guided power tools like routers and such, and then just general hand tools. And from raw lumber to the finished product, this guitar was built by just Patrick, the one man. I've been admiring Patrick's work for a couple of years now, and full disclosure, this guitar was sent out for the review, and I do get to keep it afterwards. But like always, I don't accept money for reviews, and I get to maintain full editorial control. I get to say whatever I want. So, let's dive in to the specs of this guitar. Now, normally I'd start with a brief overview of specs, but that's normal, and this guitar is not normal. So, let's start with the elephant in the room. What is this top? The centerpiece of this guitar is this piece of pine used for the top. And for the last 120 years, it was a door on a shed in a vineyard in Switzerland. It spent the last century out in the elements. Hot summers, cold winters, and harsh ultraviolet rays from the sun. And that all has an effect on the wood. It's very hard to get on camera, but hopefully that you can see that the top is not smooth. The softer bits of the wood have been removed by the elements, leaving behind just the harder bits of the grain. And with all those years out in the sunlight, the UV rays have oxidized the wood, turning it this silvery grey colour that I don't think you can replicate. It's a very special piece. And reclaimed wood used for guitars isn't a new concept. A very common practice when using reclaimed wood is to plane and sand it down smooth. It's much easier to work with that way. But if you did that here, you'd take 120 years of aging and just get rid of it. It would not look like this. If you look at the side of the guitar where it's cut for the body, that's the real colour of the pine. So you can see the stark contrast between what the pine would normally look like when cut and after all those years of aging. So this top was intentionally kept just like the door, and I'm glad it was because it looks cool and it's got a story to it as well. There's a couple of staples in the door, and I should probably mention this is not like, it's not sharp, it's been smoothed down by years and years of weathering, so it's not gonna hurt you when playing. But the staples in it come from when there's hailstorms on the vineyards. They staple insurance papers to the shed doors. So a couple of the staples from that happening are left in the door, and again, doesn't hurt, and it's just kind of one of those cool little stories that you can add to this guitar. The difficult part about maintaining this naturally aged top is that it's not a level surface, which adds complications when you need a level surface for routing the pickup routes and the neck pocket. Patrick says that he's unsure if he'd be even able to replicate this even if he did have another suitable piece of a door, because it's difficult to get a level route on an unlevel surface. Moving to the rest of the guitar, the body and neck are both made out of quarter-sawn Sipo mahogany. Sipo is known for its strength and its sustainability, and that's something that you'll see throughout this guitar is the sustainable woods. Not only do you have the reclaimed top, you have the sustainable mahogany back and neck, and even the ebony fretboard. That's a Cerelicam, I think I'm pronouncing that right, ebony fretboard, and it's just beautiful. But Cerelicam is the company that sustainably harvests the ebony, so the whole guitar is a very sustainable build. You'll also find on the back of the guitar this brass coin that's inlaid with the Hufschmid logo there. Very cool. And also, as you've probably noticed, This guitar isn't heavy. I've been holding it like nearly above my head for the entire video, and I'm going to continue to do so most of the time with one hand. It's not very heavy at all, which is good. You've got 24 frets, 25.5-inch scale length, 12-inch radius, and when it comes to electronics, you've got CTS pots and an absolutely massive new old stock Russian Teflon capacitor. It's probably the biggest capacitor I've seen used in a guitar. And we've got these two custom unfinished lace alumitone death bookers with the little laser etched Hufschmid logo there on both pickups. And the name, I'm not sure if it does these justice. I think you would naturally assume that these are going to be very heavy pickups, but don't mistake that for them not being versatile, because they are. Probably not quite the sound you'd be expecting to come from a death booker, but as the name would say, they do certainly work very well with gain too. The guitar has got hip-shot hardware on the bridge, and as the tuning machines, these are locking tuners with these cylindrical tuning buttons, which I've never come in contact with before, but I think aesthetically they work very well with this guitar. And I'd also draw your attention to the straight string pull design on the headstock too. I haven't had any tuning stability issues with this guitar at all. Now, most luthiers, most builders, have something that they kind of carry across all of their builds. And a lot of the time it's working with specific materials. And sometimes it's carbon fiber or epoxy resin. And with Patrick, it's specific types of thermoplastic. And it's probably one of the coolest and yet most understated features on this guitar. It's the nut. It's made out of a thermoplastic called PEEK. Now, PEEK is a highly resistant to abrasion material, and it's also self-lubricating. In other words, it's basically the ideal material to make a guitar nut out of. It's also an ideal material to make guitar picks out of. This is another piece of Patrick's work. This is a guitar pick made out of PEEK. So the material kind of lasts forever in the context of guitar, because the abrasion that's going to come from it is not going to weaken the material at all. This material is very, very strong. It's also very, very expensive, and that's why you really won't see it on pretty much any other guitar. But to showcase this material's strength, this nut is scalloped. Now this is purely an aesthetic choice, but if you did that on, say, a bone nut, you'd be weakening the structural integrity of the material. With this, not so much. It's virtually indestructible. And also, just to kind of illustrate just how resistant to abrasion this material is, just the nut alone on this guitar took Patrick 3 hours to make. Now, when it comes to reviewing guitars, I think a great way of doing so is to have the opportunity to play them live. I try my best with every guitar to kind of run them through the rigors in a review, but nothing quite beats playing it live because it's a different environment, different length of time when the guitar is on your shoulders, just very different to being at home and reviewing a guitar. So I took this out to a live show and I played it. Now the first thing to note is that I played a 50-minute set on this guitar and I had no shoulder pain or back pain afterwards. this guitar, as you can see, I've been holding this with one hand for the vast majority of this video. It's not heavy. Another thing to mention is that afterwards, this guitar got a whole load of compliments from people. Did my playing? No. But the guitar got mentioned quite a bit. It's very much a stage show guitar. People kind of want to know about it because it's unusual. And there's no logo on the front of the headstock. The logo is on the back and the back of the body. So guitar players are naturally kind of interested. What is that? Oh, and it also made some bandmates a bit jealous.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Can I... wow. Ooh. Yeah, I hadn't seen that before.
No?
That's deadly.
It's a 120-year-old door.
Oh my god.
The only downside to this guitar at all, and I couldn't find it at home in normal circumstances, but because the venue we were playing specifically was very low light, I did notice that it did become a little bit hard to see the side dots on this guitar. The side dots are made out of solid brass, and as you can see on camera, they look great, but just in really, really low light, harder to see. That's quite literally the only issue I found with this guitar. And even then, in normal venue lighting, you probably would be able to see them no problem. I think it was just that specifically low light show. But I also have to mention that all these guitars are custom made by Patrick, so if you were wanting one and you were concerned about visibility on stage, you're not going to have any problem, because one of the other materials that Patrick works regularly with is glow-in-the-dark material. Patrick doesn't just make guitars, he makes these picks as well. I've got a bunch of really cool ones, and one of the things that he does with them is he makes them out of glow-in-the-dark material, and he's come out with this material that it's a solid colour, and it can be pretty much any colour you want. This particular pick is black, but it glows in the dark as well, and he's using that for big blocked inlays on the sides of some of his fretboards.
So now we're going to be testing the very first black fingerboard block inlays, which actually glow in the dark. So the fingerboard is pretty much all black, but if you look closely, there are some inlays. And let's check this out in the dark. So this has never been done before. It's technically impossible normally to achieve a black material which glows in the dark, but as you can see, it works, and it goes pretty strong actually. How cool is that?
So if you're worried about playing lots of low light places, just order that feature and you won't have any problems. Now, Hufschmid build starts at 3,300 Swiss francs. That's, at the moment, with the exchange rate, a little bit more in dollars, a little bit more in euro. But it is very clear what you're paying for. This is a premium instrument. And I mean, even the shipping was premium. It took less than 48 hours to go from Switzerland to here in Ireland. And the guitar played great out of the box. Came with a case too. And this is more than just a very, very functional guitar, because it's a very good instrument. It's also a piece of art. I just love the clear contrast between old and new. When you see the side profile of the guitar, it looks so good. The new wood on the back, the old wood on the front, the aged pickups, the brass side dots really fit the aesthetic of the guitar too. It's overall a really well thought out guitar, but a well thought out concept of the build too. And just to add to that, this guitar was built from start to finish by one person. It's amazing that he can do all of the things required to make this guitar not only function, but the guitar to be really, really nice and well playing. And then I think, like, if we were comparing it to other brands, if you wanted something like a PRS built solely by Paul Reed Smith, and you wanted them to apply the same concepts of maintaining the natural age top, yeah, you'd be paying in the bare minimum 5 figures, at least. So This isn't that. So this was my review of the Hufschmid. An absolutely huge thank you to Patrick for sending this out to me. And if you want to see more of his work, I've linked his website below in the description, as well as his Instagram, where he posts up videos of him doing current builds. So definitely worth a look. If you like more videos like this, like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!